Hey there, Greg Siskind here. I don't normally do this live stream on a Friday night, but obviously there's some news today that merits this happening. So I want to talk a little bit about this executive order that was signed by the president late this afternoon, early this evening. The order was actually posted on the government's website. If you go to whitehouse.gov, you can see for yourself, and I think I'll actually post that in a second on here. But uh, I do want to talk a little bit about what this order does. I want to talk potentially about what litigation might look like respecting the order. And I'm happy to take questions. Obviously, we're trying to figure this out for ourselves, and there are a lot of things in the order that are not super clear. So I will do my best and hopefully provide some useful information. So this order that came basically, it starts out as a proclamation. Basically, I'm not actually sure sort of what the legal difference is between a proclamation and an executive order. I have to confess my ignorance on that. I think the effect is the same, but I'm not sure why they do it one way versus the other. But the proclamation begins with a rant against H-1B workers. That sounds like it was written by an anti-H-1B organization, but they go through all that and then move on basically to the meat of the memo, basically saying that they are going to restrict the entry of into the United States of anyone that's coming in on an H-1B visa. And they are doing this on the basis of 212F, which is the travel ban section of a law that they've used a number of times. The travel bans, people may remember, H-1Bs were actually subject to travel bans in the first Trump administration, but that was a different, it was done under basically, I think it was still during the COVID period. Especially when unemployment was shooting up to like 20% overnight. In this case, basically, they're using sort of the H-1Bs are stealing jobs argument, and then they get to what everybody is probably hearing about this evening, which is that they will allow anyone to still come in on an H-1B if their petition is accompanied or supplemented by a payment of $100,000. And this is by the way, to answer the first question that some of you may have, this is not a one-time $100,000. There was some news that was reported by CNN earlier that apparently this is intended to be an annual fee. So it's potentially $300,000 for the duration of a normal H-1B, which is obviously not going to happen for most employers. So the way that the executive order reads is that it takes effect at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow night. So if you are out, if there's going to be litigation, hopefully we'll get this order reversed quickly. But uh, assuming that's not the case, and you are outside the country and you have the ability to travel back into the United States um, by midnight tomorrow night Eastern time, it means you have to arrive here before 12:01 tomorrow night, which for a lot of people in certain parts of the world is going to be an impossible task. Um, this will affect you. How is the $100,000 payment to be received? That was also not made entirely clear. I've seen some people suggesting it's just going to be done for new applications in the course of the regular filing fee that's going to be paid. But that's not clear how they are going to collect the fee. They say that the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of State are going to be issuing more guidance. There is supposedly a national interest. Well, it says in here that there is a national interest exception, but no guidance as far as who would qualify for that national interest exemption. What if you decide to pay the $100,000 and your case is denied? It appears from this that you are out of luck. That there wouldn't be a refund of $100,000 if that were the case. Uh, looking at some of the other issues is in here as well. Some people ask, well, does this affect people that already have H-1Bs already issued and they're not actually applying for an H-1B? Could they come back in? The way the order reads, it appears that anybody in an H-1B who is seeking to enter the United States after tomorrow night is affected by this, regardless of the fact whether you are have a. I think if you have if you have an H-1B, you can. Well, this is part of it that's not entirely clear. If you have an H-1B already issued, but I think the way I read it, that even if you have an H-1B already issued and you're outside the country and you're not back tomorrow, I believe that the way the order reads, you are subject to the executive order. Obviously for a lot of people, a sizable number of the people that are going to be affected by this are people that just got selected in the H-1B cap and were coming in for October 1st start dates with new H-1Bs. One question that I think is worth talking to your immigration lawyer about. Hopefully, you'll reach them this evening. Is that you can enter the U.S. 10 days before the start date on your visa. So it might be possible to enter tomorrow. This is the question I think you need to talk to your lawyer about this evening. If you can get here faster, even if the visa doesn't start until October. I guess that some people may say, well, how do I apply for a national interest waiver? It's probably going to be in a similar way that it's been done in the past with people at consulates seeking national interest waivers from consular officers. What isn't really clear, though, is if you're seeking a new H-1B and you don't pay the $100,000 fee, it seems like that's an automatic denial. So my guess is they're going to have to come up with some kind of national interest waiver process for people filing initial H-1B applications. So like I said, there are a lot of things that we don't know the answers to yet. I can also tell you that there are lawyers this evening that are working on this. I can tell you, very active listserv discussions amongst immigration lawyers all over the country about legal theories for challenging. I have already been, I'm not going to discuss sort of legal theories here on what the challenge is going to look like, but what I will tell you is that one of the things that's always a challenge in these cases when you're trying to do something like overnight, literally, we're trying to do this overnight and potentially file this as early as tomorrow, is to find plaintiffs. If you are watching this and you're impacted, or somebody who's impacted, we will not be charging any fees for people that are participating in the case if we are able, in fact, to file it. So, we are looking, we know from our, at Siskind, we know from our own clients that this is going to have an impact on teachers. It's going to have an impact on doctors. It's going to have an impact on members of the clergy. There are right now, the people that are filing new H-1B applications that we're getting ready to file are mostly cap exempt employers. The cap subject employers, Generally, this is not the time of the year that they're typically filing. So hopefully, for a lot of those people, they're not going to need to travel for a while, and they'll be okay. But um, those are the those are the ones that are most affected. I do know we've seen. I'm looking at some questions right now that people are posting. Um, and one asked if it's going to impact educators. The answer is yes. Another question is, so what's the impact going to be on physicians? We have physician clients that are affected already right now that are out of the country that we're waiting on appointments to come back in that are going to be impacted by this, just by from what we know right now. We are not assuming that we're going to see any national interest categorical exemptions for occupational categories. That's certainly something we would hope to see. But right now, I think we just assume the worst. So, like I said, I mean, those are this is I'm just delivering the news on this one. But like I said, we are looking for a few plaintiffs that we could include in a potentially suit to be filed tomorrow, as early in the day tomorrow. We will be working this evening. Um, there's a question about H4 dependents. Right now, I would think that H4 dependents are going to be affected the same as they were the last time we had an H-1B ban, where whole the whole family was impacted. But H4s aren't addressed in this order, but I would assume H4s are going to be affected. The way the order reads, and I'll just read it to you. It says, under pursuant to this section 212F, the entry into the United States of aliens as non-immigrants to perform services in a specialty occupation under section 101A 15H1B is restricted. Normally, H4s are admitted pursuant to the section 101 H1B 101A 15 H1B. So I don't think H4s will be able to get in, and H1Bs are not going to be able to get in on here. I just don't think that that's how they're going to read it. For people on H-1Bs in the United States, this is an entry ban. So I think you're okay for now. But the way this also reads is it looks like they're basically going to be charging the $100,000 with an H-1B petition. So I think it's fine while you're here, but an extension is an H-1B petition that's with USCIS. And I don't believe that they are going to approve an extension for somebody unless the fee is paid. Now, we also don't know what's going to happen for applications that have already been filed that are pending. Don't know. I think hopefully by I would have thought that they would have released something on the DHS webpage this evening, but I haven't seen it yet. If anybody has seen whether something's been posted either at the State Department website, which would be travel.state.gov, or at uscis.gov on their H-1B page with information on this. That would be helpful. Honestly, I'm not sure that they gave any. This was held tightly, pretty close to the vest, and my guess is that there probably would have been some leaks. So they probably didn't tell anybody at the agencies what was going to be happening. So my guess is that we're not going to see guidance for a few days, but I could be wrong. We will see. So that's what I can tell you for now. If you, I'll put on the screen my contact information. If you are interested in participating, hang on a second. Just shoot me an email. Okay. No, that's not what I want to. Where is it? Here we go. Shoot me an email, and I will let you know what's happening as far as the what we're seeking from plaintiffs. Generally speaking, we need to get a declaration, and the declaration itself we can help with as far as giving you some guidance on what it looks like. It's not something long. It's just basically an explanation of like why you're going to be harmed by this. Now, what I can tell you as far as litigation goes is that if we're seeking a temporary restraining order, we have to show that the harm is particularly severe and immediate, and that we are very likely to win. Those are not necessarily the easiest tasks, and sometimes what we've seen is that some judges will deny temporary restraining orders, and but will still approve preliminary injunctions, which might come later. Temporary restraining orders, if we get it, they're only in effect for 2 weeks, and they're supposed to be replaced by a preliminary injunction after that. But the administration has had some success, particularly with the Supreme Court, in getting temporary restraining orders reversed. So I don't want people to assume that this is necessarily going to be, you know, I think eventually the case will win. I just don't want people to inflate expectations that litigation is hard. I think in this case there are a number of arguments that are going to be helpful here. But that's what I can tell you. So let me see if I can answer some of the questions that I'm seeing here. Hang on a second. I answered this question a minute ago about extensions for people in the U.S. I think that we need to see the guidance, but my guess is that for any new H-1B filings that are being made, the $100,000 fee is going to be applying, but it's probably not going to affect cases that were already filed before the order was issued. We have to wait and see what the government tells us on that. If you already have an H-1B extension, I think you're fine as far as being in the United States. However, if you travel outside the United States, the way the order reads, I don't think you're getting back in unless you pay the $100,000 fee. So this has been something that since the first Trump administration, we told people is like, be really cautious about travel because things happen sometimes when you travel. And, we're seeing that happening right now. I have a question here about filed H-1B in June for a senior engineer. Would that qualify? Right now, we don't know whether they're going to hold up adjudications of applications that were already filed. It doesn't say in the executive order, so I am not sure. I'll be interested in what some of my colleagues have to say about that. I'm sure that there are probably some immigration lawyers that are watching this evening and hoping that I have sort of the secret knowledge about how the administration is planning on interpreting things. I have the same language all of you have as far as looking at this order, which is not well written. It's not particularly detailed. There's a lot more questions that we're left with rather than answered from what we're seeing. I was working on an FAQ document, and it was just getting very frustrating with the amount of answers that I was saying. It's like we don't know yet. We have to wait and see. And I know that's frustrating for people that the lawyers who are supposed to know this stuff don't have the answers. But this is the world we're in right now. Okay. Currently outside the U.S. H-1B renewal stamping. I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Tavari. But it does look like you're potentially going to be affected if you don't have the H-1B stamp in your passport right now and you're able to enter by tomorrow. As I had mentioned, that there's a suit where we're going to be taking people hopefully to a temporary restraining order suit that we're hoping to file. There, as I said, this is going to be a pro bono case. There will not be any charges for plaintiffs that are volunteering for that. So please let me know if you're interested or other people in a similar situation to you that are interested. This is a question of my extension is currently being prepared by my law firm. When will we know how this will impact us, and should the H4 spouse accompany me traveling outside the U.S. right now? I would not be traveling outside the U.S. at all until this is all cleared up, unless you prefer to pay $100,000. But as far as on extensions right now that are pending, um, we just have to wait on guidance about whether those cases are impacted or not. Is the $100,000 fee per year or per petition? I will read you what a quote that I saw this evening that was on CNN. This is from a story that's on CNN.com right now. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told reporters on a call Friday evening that the administration came to the fee of $100,000 per year plus vetting costs, whatever that means, after talking with companies. I doubt they talked with anybody. He noted that the payment structure is still under discussion with the Department of Homeland Security in terms of whether we're going to charge the $300,000 up front or $100,000 a year for the 3 years. So that seems pretty clear to me that they are intending this to be a much higher amount than just $100,000. Hang on a second. Does this impact someone who's Canadian? As a Canadian permanent resident, do they have a valid visa and are approved I-140 and travel to the U.S. for work every day? I think if you have an approved I-140 and you could enter, you'd be able to enter on an immigrant visa but if the number is available to you. I think probably if you're in the backlogs, which a pretty sizable portion of people with approved I-140s are, you're not going to benefit from that. But if you have a valid H-1B and you're in Canada, where it's relatively easy to get back to the United States, I would get back tomorrow on there. I'm sure that that's already crossed your mind. But that's the same question. Let's see. There's a subsection C that says the national interest. Does academic scientists come into this category? I wish I knew on here. I would hope so. I would hope that, and certainly a lot of people that are being impacted by this, whether it's teachers of kids that are underprivileged in inner city schools, or doctors working in rural hospitals, or scientists working on medical research. I mean, there's a lot of cases to be made that most of you deserve national interest waivers, but we just don't know what that means, and we didn't get any guidance for it tonight. So if your national interest waiver for your green card, the I-140, has already been approved, I would think that would be strong evidence that you could present for a national interest waiver. But that wasn't even cleared up here as far as whether that's meant to be the same thing. So I guess we're going to all be learning about this together as far as what that means for people that are affected by this, unless we're successful with our litigation. Let's see. I'm looking for some new questions that haven't been asked already. Somebody said that okay, is it safe for H4s to travel now? I wouldn't until we had guidance on there. I don't think so. I think H4s are going to get treated the same way as H-1Bs. I'm doing that based on my experience from the last time we had an H-1B travel ban. Yeah, I'm getting questions sort of like about whether certain categories will qualify for national interest waivers. I'm just going to answer that generally, saying that maybe on all of these. I think that I think you're going to have to start thinking about how that's going to look and what you're going to do. Certainly, if you're in the AI space, there's a new executive order talking about how important AI is to the country, and that I'm guessing that you can make cases in a lot of categories, but without any guidance from the government tonight on what's in the national interest, we don't know. So somebody asked the similar question about whether it applies to people at nonprofit hospitals. Shouldn't on there, but they're not exempt explicitly. So whatever national interest exemptions are going to come, either are going to come from additional guidance that we're going to get, or we're going to have to do it on a case by case basis and keep our fingers crossed. Um, I do hope that we can get some doctors in our suit tomorrow, as well as teachers, clergy, anybody that right now has a pretty easy case to make as far as the benefits that they're providing the public. So think about that. Hopefully, for people that are normally not super excited about putting themselves out this way, I can tell you that we've done probably 40 of these cases now against the first Trump administration, the Biden administrations, and never in any of our cases have we ever seen any retaliation against anybody. And I would say that you should feel comfortable that that's not going to be the case here. Um, will this apply to healthcare jobs? We don't know. I mean, it applies to healthcare jobs. Whether they're going to get an exemption, we don't know. Same thing for universities, research centers, nonprofits. We just don't know. Being cap exempt is not going to exempt you from the order the way it reads this evening. In fact, cap exempt employers are sort of some of the anti-immigrant anti-H-1B organizations out there hate the fact that there are cap exemptions because they feel like that's just inflating numbers and they don't want anybody coming in on H-1B. Hang on one second. I know I have some more questions here, and you guys are asking them faster now than I can answer them. Let's see. You have a friend who's going to be traveling to the U.S. from India and will land on 21st September. Will he be stopped? If he's here before the midnight tomorrow night deadline at a port of entry, he should not be impacted. But he needs to make sure that he's here. Is it only for entry or a new visa or even renewal? So the problem is with this order is the president only has the power under 212F to ban entries. So that's how he structured it, is basically banning entries for H-1Bs. But the way they've written it is pretty broad, so that it affects everybody who is entering the country using the H-1B unless there's two things. Unless they can document that they have paid the $100,000 fee, which is obviously not the case because it wasn't possible to, we don't even know how somebody who already has an H-1B visa would pay the fee at this point because they already have filed their petition. Or they will qualify for a national interest exemption. We also don't know how a person gets a national interest exemption. If you have an H-1B visa already and you're re-entering the U.S. after tomorrow, can you apply for that national interest exemption at the port of entry? I think I would make the argument that you could. Obviously, you can go back to the consulate and seek it from them, but we have no guidance yet as far as how that's going to work. What about Canadian citizens on H-1Bs that don't need a visa? This is not a visa ban. This is a travel ban, and anybody who's entering the U.S. under the H-1B section of the law, entering the U.S., Canadians, just because you don't have a visa doesn't mean that you're not seeking entry to the United States. So I don't see Canadians being off the hook here. In fact, one of the plaintiffs that we're talking to right now, as far as potential plaintiff for the morning, is somebody in your situation who is a Canadian citizen who would be entering with an H-1B approval, but obviously they don't need a visa. So unfortunately, I think you're affected. What are the chances? I talked about this a few minutes ago. I think based on our discussions, we have some pretty good arguments. I think people might be, and the initial take might be, well, with the travel ban being upheld, the last time that that there's no hope. But I would remind people that we filed a lot of travel ban suits against the Trump administration after the Trump v. Hawaii case successfully the last time. There are a number of requirements in 212F. It's not a blanket rule that lets the president just basically stop entries anytime he wants. There's the process. There's also something that has been a new issue this go around, which is that some judges have been striking things down the president's doing if they believe that they've done them with animus, which basically means in bad faith. So there's it's not ironclad that the president can just basically pick a group and say, I'm going to bar you from entering the U.S. There's a process. How to get in the case tomorrow. Hang on a second. I'm going to put up that banner again. Just email me if you are interested, and I will get you more information. Please, and hopefully you'll be on standby and able to either tonight or tomorrow morning early help us with what we're going to need. Obviously, we're not going to have time to take a lot of plaintiffs on because there's just not going to be time, but we need the people that we're going to take will hopefully be good representatives for the overall group, and also they need to be available to help us with the what we need, which is going to be declarations and some other information in order to file the case. So, all right, going back here, where was I? Sorry. Okay. I'm trying to find where I left off. There are a lot of people here right now. This is probably the record for the most number of people that ever have been on one of my live streams. Do the fees also apply for renewals? From what I just read you, it looks like even though this is only a 12-month executive order, so in theory, we don't know. It looks certainly like from Secretary Lutnick's remarks to reporters this evening that they are looking at this being an annual fee. So more than just renewals, they're looking at this potentially being something that has to be paid every year, even between renewals. We'll have to wait and see on that. That there are, by the way, when it comes to the fee issues, there are a lot of rules, and their 212F is the entry ban provisions may be somewhat broad for the president, but the fee rules are pretty restrictive as far as what they're allowed to do. So that's something obviously we're going to be focusing on. Yeah, I'm trying to find things that I haven't already addressed already. So let's see. And I'm not really interested in talking about sort of editorial discussions about whether H-1B workers are good or not. Hopefully, you guys probably know my position on that for a while at this point. So for potential clients for the lawsuit, does somebody need to have an approved H-1B and is just not entered, or could their H-1B be pending with USCIS? I think we'll take this order is so broad that arguably, all these groups are affected. So I think what we probably want to have is a variety of situations that for the plaintiffs that we can discuss, and that way we kind of hit all the different situations. And if we get clarity later on that one group or another is not meant to be included, then great. We'll drop those people from the suit and they can carry on. But I think what we want to have is sort of a variety of occupations, a variety of people's situations. I think the one thing right now that, well, I guess even for people that are in the U.S., the way it's reading, I mean, arguably we're focusing on people outside the United States, but even some people in the United States might have harms that they're going to suffer because the ban is in place, and harms that they would suffer if they're not able to travel. So I hate to say it, but if you've had like a personal crisis with your family, and you need to travel home and you're afraid to travel home now because of that, you're impacted by this, and you probably you're harmed by it, and you might have a claim. So we'd look for those kinds of people as well, even people that are here, and not just people that are outside the U.S. right now. If this order hurts you, is the bottom line. So the inability to travel, if you're here, is a harm. And then obviously, if you're not here yet and you can't get into the United States, that's a different kind of harm. So our plan is to highlight different ways that this order is hurting people. So we'll be looking for a variety if we can get that by tomorrow. That's a hard task. I don't think I've had to find plaintiffs for one of our cases quite as quickly as this one, but we're going to do our best. All right, I'm going to end for this evening, and we'll have more. I'll update people on my probably on LinkedIn is the main place. I'm probably going to be updating this evening and tomorrow, but um, hopefully tonight, some of you that have heard this have gotten some information that's useful. And I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you, and good night.